Welcome to Aligned with Kell Quarrell, the podcast where we talk all things small business. It's a mix of mindset, empowerment, real conversations, and of course, alignment. I'm your host, Kell Quarrell, a businesswoman with close to 20 years of business experience. Get ready for a mix of solo deep dives and inspiring interviews with awesome guests who will share how they have aligned their businesses with the lives they love. Let's dive in to align your business with the life you've always wanted. Welcome to another episode of Aligned with Kell Quarrell. I am Kell, and I'm really excited to have you tune in to this solo deep dive where I'm going to be talking about being 100% responsible for everything that you have in your business and everything that you don't have in your business. And this episode is coming from the episode I did last week with my bestie, Shez, and my business partner in She Can. And we had a really exciting announcement to make on the podcast, which we did. However, what transpired after recording the podcast and putting it out into the world last Thursday was a series of events that I was like, wow, there's almost half a dozen podcast episodes that can actually come from that guest interview episode with Shez. And the reason being is that we recorded that episode on Wednesday morning, ready for my team member to put together and schedule to be released at 11 a.m. on Thursday. And that happened, all went smooth sailing. However, when the podcast episode went live last Thursday, and you may have been someone that caught it early, there was actually no sound every time Shez spoke. And this is what I wanted to talk about on this episode, because was it my job, so to speak, on getting the podcast edited and set up and scheduled, or was it my team members? Well, the honest truth is it was my team members' job to do that. However, I did not go in and double check, and therefore I take responsibility for the fact that the podcast episode was actually not ready to be released to the world because it hadn't been checked. Now, so much of that could be a blame game. I could absolutely stand here and say, well, it wasn't actually my fault because it was not actually my role. But the thing is it is my business. And I am the leader of my business, and I take full responsibility for the fact that I did not go and listen to the episode in full before it went out live. Now, in the whole scheme of business and the whole scheme of what it is that I do and the podcast and all of those things, is it a big deal? Not really. Was it ideal? Absolutely not. Would I have loved it to have gone live and been perfect from the beginning? Of course. However, there is always a way that we can, fix up our mistakes. And that's what I did. I got a message actually from Shez that Joey, her husband, had gone to listen to it and he couldn't hear her. She didn't know if it was an error on their device. And then I received 2 messages from beautiful clients of ours in She Can saying, hey, tuning into the episode. However, we can't hear Shez. And that's when I knew that there was definitely a error. So I went in, I deleted the episode that had gone out. I put together the new episode with the intro and outro, and I uploaded that, and all was good in the world. However, it did add lots of time onto my day yesterday. I had a lot to do in the back end for the relaunch of She Can, and reloading and editing a podcast was just not on my to-do list. nor was it something that I had scheduled into my calendar, but it needed to be done. And this is the thing. When I talk about there could be half a dozen episodes that come from that one experience, there's just so many different things that I could talk into. But the one thing that I take pride in is that everything that happens in my business and everything that doesn't happen in my business, I need to take 100% responsibility for. And in this moment, when it comes to a podcast going out where the audio is incorrect, I had to take responsibility because I myself had not checked the episode. The other layer of that is then I can take responsibility of and take ownership of the error, but I can also then say, right, my next responsibility, the next role that I need to own is to actually have the conversation with my team member. And this podcast is not about berating my team member. This conversation is about me taking ownership and me then stepping into the next role that I had to have was the conversation with my team member. And that was just a simple one. Hey, the episode went out yesterday. It wasn't checked. There was no audio for shares in the episode. Can we make sure that before we schedule any episodes of the podcast from here on in, that you go in and you listen to the intro and the outro and throughout the actual podcast to make sure that the audio is okay. And so that was a conversation we had. That wasn't a disciplinary type of situation. It was just, hey, this was the mistake that was made. Let's make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. And this is what we're going to do to ensure that each episode from here on in is smooth sailing. And that went really well. She was very apologetic, of course, but we've now put in some systems so that we make sure that the episodes moving forward are at the best quality possible and that I'm not then having to undo and redo her work again, making sure that it's all good from the outset. One thing I will say about last week's podcast interview is the audio at times was a little bit delayed, particularly later in the podcast. I knew that my internet was kind of struggling with keeping up with the recording. And so you'll hear that, some of my responses to what Shez was saying was delayed. And then at the very end, I actually had to edit a little bit of our content out because it was overlapping each other, and that was just the lag that was happening. So again, could be a whole other episode around IT and the issues and the challenges that we are faced with in business. But this one for me was about really understanding that for you to take that next level in your business, it's about you taking 100% responsibility, even for the things that you might feel like at the time are actually not your fault or not your responsibility. But at the end of the day, it is your business and you are responsible for every part of it. And this is something that we used to speak about in She Can a lot as well. We had a beautiful team that worked alongside of us, and all of those women in our team actually came through our events. And often, it was we were taking responsibility because it always came back to, were we giving our team all of the information that they needed? Were we being clear? Were we forward planning and ensuring that they had all of the information they needed? And many times, Shez and I made mistakes. However, we got really good at taking 100% responsibility. And I really believe that when you do that as a business owner, it's very easy for you to stand in your integrity, but also your authenticity. It's okay to know that you're going to make mistakes. And it's even better when it is that you can own those mistakes and that you can be like, yep, 100%, that was me. That was my error. And I'm going to learn from that and hopefully, not make that error again. And, if you do, it's totally fine. It's about stepping into that leadership of this is my business. I'm the one that needs to lead it. And therefore, basically, the buck stops with me. I have to take responsibility for the things that happen. So that was something that I just wanted to share off the back of last week's podcast episode. If it is that you jumped right in before I got the episode repaired or reloaded and you haven't gone back, go back and listen to it. It is a really fun and very exciting episode for me. And as I said, it wasn't ideal to launch it without having the sound of your guest, but it's all good now. And I just wanted to come in and hopefully inspire you to kind of assess where you're at in your business and what is the role that you are playing. And are there things that you actually need to take 100% responsibility for? And that responsibility doesn't come with you berating yourself. It doesn't come with, feeling shameful or being judgmental. It's just about that next level of leadership. And you get to step into that role of, okay, can I have a look at my business and take responsibility for everything in it, but also everything that I don't have in it? And is there some changes that you get to make moving forward? And from that, is there a support system that you need to help you make those changes? This is not about beating yourself up. This is not about, nitpicking and finding all of the things that you perhaps are not doing as well as you could. It's about having a look at the big picture. What are some areas that I need to take responsibility for? And what do I do moving forward to improve myself in that area of my business? Or what are the changes that I actually want to make to the business itself? So that is all today. Another little punchy deep dive episode. I am very excited to bring you my next guest interview episode next week with the incredible Kirsten Morrison. We're talking about how she has designed and created her business in alignment with human design. So until next week, go and have a beautiful day. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to being in your ears again very soon. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Aligned with Kell Quarrell. I hope our conversations have inspired you to be bold in the pursuit of your dreams. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with the business women in your life and took the time to leave a review. Your feedback is like an ice-cold glass of Prosecco, always welcomed and always appreciated. You might even consider giving the show a follow. Until next time, continue to take bold action towards aligning your business with your deepest desires.